David, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be in Houston's answer to Acorn. I thought before we get into the interview, I'd start with a little story. A man was in a hot air balloon on his way to meet a friend when he realized that he didn't know where he was and he didn't know where the winds were taking him. So he looked out of his basket and saw a woman on the ground there and adjusted the flame and lowered the balloon to where he was within earshot. And he said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but I'm on my way to see a friend. I'm an hour late, and I don't know where I am, and I don't know where these winds are taking me. Can you help me?" She looked up at him and said, "Sure. You're in a hot air balloon. You're 40 feet above the Earth's surface. You're somewhere between 39 and 40 degrees north latitude, and 69 and 70 degrees west longitude." Looks down at her and says, "You a Republican?" He says, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He said, "Well, the information you've given me seems technically correct, but I haven't the foggiest idea what to do with it. I'm still lost, my friend's still waiting me, and frankly, you haven't been much help." He looks up at him and says, You're a Democrat, right?" He said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He said, "Well, you don't know where you are, and you don't know where you're going. You've risen to your present position on a large quantity of hot air. You've made promises you have no idea how to keep, and you expect me to solve your problem." And besides, you're in the same position you were when I met you, and yet you're blaming me for your predicament. And of course, this is the story. Whenever I see, or often when I see Republicans square off against Democrats, it looks like Godzilla versus Bambi. They call us racist, sexist, homophobes, Islamophobes, and we call them liberals. What are they liberal about except hard drugs, deviant sex, and spending other people's money? That's what they're liberal about. So the task you all have is to turn that around. First of all, don't call them liberals. Second of all, go right in their face. And third of all, and here I will quote, did you get, oh yeah, I had that put up, Ann Coulter, "Speak loudly and carry a small victory."
So tell us how you came to know the left so well.
Well, my mother and father were card-carrying members of the American Communist Party. I was born a long time ago in 1939, so I grew up in the heart of the Cold War. And everybody that I knew, because everybody that was a friend of my parents would have been a communist. Everybody I knew wanted the Soviet Union to win the Cold War. Very hard for conservatives to understand this, because conservatives are practical people. And you look at America, and everybody's traveled somewhat, or you can read about other countries in the paper, and you know that this is or you just watch. Our problem is not people leaving. Our problem is too many people want to come here. This is the greatest place on God's green earth. Any 5-year-old could see that. And we'll get into why leftists can't. But these people have this fantasy, well, I'll explain it right now. They have a fantasy of a redeemed world that they will redeem. Not a redeemer will redeem it, they will redeem it. And it's called socialism, social justice, communism, whatever, utopia. And that's what they judge America by the best possible world that they can imagine, rather than the real world that people actually live in and create. So I grew up in this community. I was, in 1956, when I was 17, Nikita Khrushchev, who was the Soviet premier then, gave a secret speech to to the Central Committee of the Communist Party, which was smuggled out by an Israeli agent and appeared on the front page of the New York Times. And the speech was about how many communists Stalin had killed. Stalin killed 1 million communists. Khrushchev didn't care about the tens of other million people that he killed, but the communists, because the Soviet leadership was afraid that they would be next. Stalin was dead, but a new Stalin could arise. That's why he gave the speech. And that speech caused actual divorces those were days when not many people got divorced, but people got divorced over this Khrushchev report. People felt their lives had been betrayed and so forth. And their children, which is my generation, went out to create a new left. What I discovered, and the reason that I'm sitting here, is there is no such thing as a new left. It's always the same left. But we had this idea that we would do a new left, and that's what the 60s were about.
No, that's it. That gives us an understanding of where you're coming from. We all, one or two of us, probably watch Glenn Beck whenever we catch it. And you know, you see him draw on the chalkboards all of the networks and all of the interconnectedness. And we know that the Shadow Party you wrote back in 2006, is this still what it looks like today? Is this still what we're up against? Is Soros still in there?
Well, this will give you a picture of how the left operates. I mean, the organization, Acorn is in there, but the organization you're going up against with Acorn, Organizing for America, is a more recent creation. But you get a good picture. When I came out of the left, I voted. The first time I voted for a Republican was in 1984. I voted for Reagan. And then I had the very poor judgment when the Washington Post called me, because I and my writing partner had written a best-selling book about the Kennedy family. And he said, "What are you guys doing these days?" And I said, "You will never believe this, but we just voted for Ronald Reagan." So, he said, "That's a good story." This was the editor of their Sunday magazine. So we wrote a piece which we called "Better Ron Than Red," what they called "Lefties for Reagan." And when that piece came out, I lost every friend that I had ever had in life. And as my partner said, he said, "Our literary careers are over." And I'm always a cockeyed optimist, so but he was right. Our books used to be front page Sunday New York Times, and Times never reviews a book that we write anymore.
That's an lie.
Tell that to my wallet. What was I?
Oh well, so.
I did want to say. Okay, so when I came out of the left, first of all, I discovered that the New York Times and the Washington Post were not going to be friendly to somebody who became an anti-communist. There was no center. There was a left and there was a right. And the reason I voted for Reagan was he was standing tall against the communists in Central America, and the Democrats were appeasing them and abetting them. But I had in my head, I saw when I would go to Washington, I knew who these people were. I knew what was in their heads. I knew they had malice in their hearts towards this country.